Alright, an unexpected surprise that has been demanded for a long time, but we finally got a second non-anime ride line with a new grade 3, this time being Baro, so let's begin. So first off, his ride line got evolved, the first one being the grade 1, Patient Miasma, which also has 8 key power of course, and has a skill of auto when rolled upon by Singularity Tamer, which is the grade 2, Soul Charge 2, choose one of your Vanguards that gets plus 5 key power in the end turn. Of course, difference from this to the original one is that the original one Soul Charges immediately on the grade 1 ride, not like you really need it into grade 3 turn. So in a way, just using this one will be better because it's Soul Charge 2 instead of 1, even if it's a turn later. In which we go to the grade 2 with 10k power, Singularity Tamer, which has the skill of auto when rolled upon by the grade 3 Baromagnes, Soul Charge 2, then choose one grade 3 or less card from your soul and call it to rearguard. Comparing this grade 2 to the original grade 2 of the ride line, the original one is a little better since you can choice Soul Charge from hand, draw, and then do another Soul Charge, but unfortunately if you're going to run the new grade 1, you're going to need to use this one. But either way, the random soul charge is fine because you do want more soul, so in a way it's worth the trade-off. And in a way you still get a +1 with this. And then finally the new grade 3 with 13k power, Providence Disorder Baromagnes, which has the skill Count Vanguard. During your turn, this card gets us 5k for each Baromagnes and soul. Basically a little incentive to run the original, and luckily you don't need to put the original in the ride deck even if you do, especially since Baro is basically like Dark Irregulars where you do all the random soul charging, so having extra copies of the original isn't entirely too bad. Too bad this doesn't count as the original, so unfortunately no extra persona riding. But anyway, the main skill is Auto Vanguard. When this card attacks a Vanguard, cost counterblast 1, perform all the following depending on the number of soul. If you have at least 10, draw a card and crit +1. At least 15, choose any number of rear guards, you and your opponent, put them to soul, then choose the 2 cards from your soul, call them to rear guard and plus 10k power in your end turn, and at least 20. Into the end of battle, when your opponent would call cards from their hand to guardian, they must call 3 or more at the same time. So basically, it's kind of an improvement of the original, but you do not have the 7 or more skill anymore. Instead, it's combined with the 10, and in many cases, getting 10 on the first grade 3 ride isn't even hard, and probably 15 now by chance. So in many ways, riding this as the main first grade 3 is basically almost no different from running the original, except for the extra power, which the 10 or more part also lost. Although technically the power could be made up from the first skill, since you're going to be doing a lot of random soul charging, and the very likely chance that you're going to be soul charging a Baromagnes, especially if you run the original along with it, is very highly likely. So overall, it is personal preference which grade 3 you want to ride first, since in many cases in your very first grade 3 ride you're going to have at least 10 in soul and probably up to 15, so you might get all the same abilities anyway. But if you do prefer extra consistency, just in case that you want to play at least one of the skills and can't reach the 10, I guess run the original as your ride deck first. But overall, this new one is pretty decent, especially with the new added skill of the extra guard restrict, which is of course very powerful. But unfortunately, you need almost half your deck just to be able to do that. And now we go to the support, which the first one is President of Glory Morax, which is a grade 3 with 13 power, and the skills auto when placed on rearguard if you have at least a grade 3 Baromagnes, Soul Charge 1, and this card gives us 5k power in your turn. Then costs counterblast 1, choose any number of normal units from soul, return them back to the deck and shuffle it, and plus 5k power for each one that you put by this ability for the turn. This is just overall pretty good to help you recycle for over soul charging, especially since you really just need up to 20 for the new Baromagnes, or if you play the original, just 15. And in some cases more random soul charging, so you might want to shuffle some cards back to the deck first. So overall, play this at least 2 of just to help you out. And then we got Dance of Awakening Marfel, which is a grade 1 with key power and the skills auto rear guard. At the end battle, this unit boosts if you have at least 10 cards in soul. Cost, retire this unit, choose a grade 3 or greater Vanguard that is Baromagnes, reduce the cost of the original ability by 1 counterblast into the end turn. I mean, it's helpful, but I don't think it's that necessary, especially since the deck does have counter charging. But something you can do is have this boost the rear guard first and then retire itself so you can reduce the counterblast by 1, which can be quite helpful sometimes, especially so you don't need to suck this to soul and ability can still be active. Not saying it's completely necessary, but it is there if you have it. And also, it also affects strides as well, because if your Baromagnes is the heart, your stride unit also counts as Baromagnes, so remember that. And then we got Moment of Silent Shulin, which is a grade 2 with 10 power on the skills. Auto, when placed on rearguard from hand, choose a grade 3 Baromagnes from your ride deck, reveal it, and if the revealed card or your Vanguard is at least a grade 3 Baromagnes, choose a card from your drop zone and put it to soul. And then, if you have at least a grade 3 Baromagnes Vanguard, plus 5 key power in the end turn. And here's a card that lets you do some choice soul charging, especially from the drop zone, so might be some incentive to run extra copies of the original Baro. But what makes this card even better is the second skill where auto, when put to soul from rearguard by the ability of your at least grade 3 Baro, draw a card. More draw power is always nice, just be careful with deck out, but overall very helpful for the deck. And finally, here are some lists of cards that can work well with the new Baromagnes. Of course, it's just mostly random soul charging. And finally, next Dokkan stream, Varga plus Vanguard support, which I'm excited for. So that's it for the new Baromagnes. What do you guys think of it? Basically, improvement of the original like most of the new grade 3s, except this one is a bit harder to pull off for the full power part, especially that you need almost half your deck. But overall pretty cool, kinda does the same thing as the original, but with few improvements if you use the original along with it. And also very usable in premium, because you could technically use this with No Life King. But in that, there's really not much to say about it. And hopefully we get more new forms of non-anime ride line grade 3s, because I've been waiting for a new form of Flagberg, and I know there's people who's waiting for Eugene, so I hope that they make new forms of those as well. But in that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.